We are going to get to a point to where South Carolina is so overhyped that they will be an overrated team going into 2025. And before you come at me, Gamecock Nation, that is not an insult to you. I am on your side. I believe in you more than anybody else. Because last year I jumped on the War Chicken Express and said you were going to be an 8-win team. You were a 9-win team, and now everybody wants to follow suit. Well, I hate to break it to you, bandwagoners. There's no more room on the Gamecock Express to Atlanta. And yes, despite losing all the defensive talent, I do believe Shane Beamer can lead this South Carolina team to a conference championship, to the college football playoff, and even make noise in the postseason, if they can answer these three questions throughout spring practice. Let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show. Follow us on the socials. Link in the description. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is fueled by FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join in the madness today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Lay down $5, win that bet. You're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Sign on up and join in the madness today at FanDuel.com/SECU. Question number one, what's next for the offense? See, Lenore Sellers was the most improved player in college football for me from week 1 to week 13. You are nowhere near the conversation of being in the dozen dance with 16 does not improve. And he did in every facet. Not only did he finish with over 3,000 total yards of scrimmage, 25 touchdowns, 3 signature wins, including a comeback win against Clemson and Missouri, and a fourth would have been on the horizon if he doesn't get injured in week 3 against LSU, and maybe even a college football playoff appearance, which begs the question, what happens if South Carolina goes on a postseason run? Because quarterback play usually defines how well a team can play. It didn't this year. In fact, for my money, Riley Leonard and Will Howard were in the middle of the pack for the national championship quarterbacks. But still, if you get a quarterback that's able to finalize his momentum, carry that inertia game by game and build it up, that is the most dangerous team in college football. And with the 12-team playoff, depending on where you sit in the bracket, you can easily get there. But you have to improve. What's the next step? No more Dow Loggins. Bring in Mike Shula, who is a good fit for what Lenore Sellers can and can't do. And you feel like that this team should be taking the next step forward. Last season, they finished with 30.5 points per game, 470 yards per game, 223 passing yards per game, 184 rushing yards per game. They were 71st in explosive plays, and they allowed 41 sacks. So can you improve on those numbers? Well, you have the talent around you. No more Rocket Sanders, but Rasul Faison comes in from Utah State, and he's coming off of an 1,100-yard season with the Aggies. And also he had 9 rushing touchdowns. You feel really good about the running back room behind him, especially now that you're bringing back in guys like Oscar Attaway. Your tight end play should be very strong because if you bring in Jordan Dingle, who's already got experience playing in the SEC, but Michael Smith, the former 4-star as part of your 2024 class, should be the long-term replacement for Josh Simon. You like the 1-2 combination of Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett. I don't really care which one you believe is actually wide receiver one, but they're back in the saddle. And then you got to talk about the younger guys. One of the few things that I thought was really interesting is that South Carolina didn't bring in a veteran wide receiver in the transfer portal. And then I look back at their numbers in the 2025 class, and I'm like, oh, that's because they have such high hopes for this next group. Young up-and-comers that should be immediate plug-and-play additions like Malik Clark, Brian Rowe, Lex Cyrus, Jordan Gidtron, Jaden Sellers. Plus, you bring back Van Jacobs and Jared Brown. What's the excuse? Yes, you're going to be implementing multiple new offensive linemen, but you still have the anchor at the left tackle and Josiah Thompson protecting Lenore Sellers, and you have the mobility of his game. When I look at what Lenore Sellers can do in a Mike Shula offense, I am not going to say it's Cam Newton-esque. That would be foolish of me. That would be barbaric of me to even reach to those standards. But what I will tell you is that there are very similar traits that stood out in Cam Newton's game in 2015 when he won an MVP and led the Carolina Panthers to a Super Bowl appearance against the Denver Broncos. Sellers has those same intangibles. If you get a guy like Mike Shula to enhance those intangibles, the growth in the relationship and the maturity of Nick Harbor, Mazio Bennett, we've already talked about Jordan Dingle, Michael Smith, we get a good ground game. And this offense can go from maybe not 31st in scoring, but 22nd in scoring, 43rd in rushing, 28th in passing. And it all expands to that new level. We are talking about a South Carolina team that will be at least in the running for a 10-win season. Same schedule as last year. You're playing the Palmetto Bowl, by the way, in your backyard. So Who's to say that you can't go on an epic run, lose one random game in the middle of October, and be right back in the situation to be playing in Atlanta against Texas or Georgia or God knows, maybe even an Ole Miss in a rematch of what you're going to see early on in the season. Question number 2. Who are the defensive leaders? Dylan Stewart's back after a 6.5 sack season. Also, he had 11 tackles for loss, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, we had an interview with him, shameless plug here, right at Radio Row during the Super Bowl. If you want to go check that out, the link is going to be right up here, so make sure that you watch that video. You also have DQ Smith back, and you also have Jalen Kilgore in the secondary. Both should be plug-and-play, ample leaders in place of guys who you're losing, mostly Nicky Manwari and Debo Williams. What about the rest of the team? 8 defensive starters you're replacing in some capacity, whether they were part-time starters, full-time starters. That elite defense that carried South Carolina and would have been the backbone of the team in a postseason push, that's no longer back there. No more Tonka Hemingway. TJ Sanders is gone. No more Terrence Knighton. No more Debo Williams. Kyle Kennard, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He's going off to the pros. O'Donnell Fortune's gone. Nicky Manwari's gone. So who steps up? South Carolina did a good job of replacing talent in the portal. It's basically like playing a game of softball where you got some guys that are part of the system, but everyone decides to cancel at the very last minute. So you take players from the other team and say, hey, do you want to go play just 6 innings real fast, get a couple reps in? Sure, we're fine with that. And now you have that currently in South Carolina's roster. Guys who maybe are unproven or haven't reached their full potential, but they flashed. Now it's time to see if they can sizzle. Guys like a Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy from Texas A&M. Or Xavier Hardy, the #1 JUCO transfer in America this past year. Justin Okonkwo from Alabama. Or Sean Murphy from FSU. Can they step up at middle linebacker? What about Brandon Cisse in coverage as the new #1 cornerback from NC State? They've all had their roles. They've all been role players. Now they get to have their opportunity to shine, be the leading man, be a part of a system that eventually could be a reason why we talk about South Carolina playing in the Sugar Bowl, or in the Cotton Bowl, or in the Peach Bowl, or the National Championship out in Las Vegas next year, which hopefully I will be attending. All of those pieces are there. And by the way, it's not just the veterans. We also got younger guys who we barely saw last year. Donovan Darden and Kendall Daniels. What did they end up playing out of their minds as freshmen this year, and they kill it throughout spring practice? Are we really going to have them sit on the sidelines because of they're not veterans? No. You got Clayton White saying, I want to have the best 11 out on the field because I know that my best 11 is good enough to take us to that next stage. So how do you make sure that you guarantee that? Great spring practice. You make sure that everybody is holding each other accountable. Even the guys that you barely saw last season, Fred Johnson, Kelvin Johnson. How about David Busey or Bucky's? However you say it. We call Bucky's down here in Texas. So go ahead and comment on my pronunciation. There are enough pieces defensively that we haven't seen actually reach their peak because the guys that were sitting in front of them, they've been waiting in the wings, salivating at the mouth, waiting to finally reach the buffet. And now that they're there, they're going to feast. You just got to hope that you get everybody on their P's and Q's. They dot the I's, they cross the T's, whatever tickles your fancy when it comes to that saying, before we get to week 1, before eventually we have to watch a game go down in week 2 against South Carolina State, before you go travel to Atlanta and take on Virginia Tech, before you take on Vanderbilt or travel to Columbia and take on the other team from Columbia, not the team that we all know. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. Even if you miss the first few minutes of a game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet win. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, and 18 plus in DC. First online real money wagers only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issues with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back to the show. Question number 3. Do you feel like that you're good enough to win a national championship? Because in spring football, I hope that when Shane Beamer takes the office, sits back, and is watching the film following the final spring game, he feels like his team is good enough to win and good enough to win multiple games. Because I'm looking at this team and I'm saying to myself, South Carolina has laid down the foundation. They have the players, they have the personnel, they have the identity to be one of the best in the SEC. They nearly took down Alabama in the house that Nick Saban built last year. They handled business against LSU and probably should have been in the playoffs. We're talking about a handful of moments away from this being an 11-1 team facing off against Texas in the SEC championship and punching their ticket to the postseason. Do you feel like that you're good enough to be right back there? Because Shane Beamer got to 9 wins. Probably should have gotten to 10 wins this year, if we're being just completely honest. Maybe even 11 or 12. But now we know it's possible. That's the thing. South Carolina fans are some of the most ravenous, some of the most bountiful, some of the most barbarically sound units in college football. But they've earned that now. They should have these expectations. They should feel like when a person walks into Willie B on a Saturday night, they already know that they're waving the white flag and it's game over. That should be the way that South Carolina fans are treating 2025 because the quarterback is there. The wide receiver talent's there. The offensive line definitely has the pieces. They have the All-American and potential future day one pick in Dylan Stewart. They have great secondary play. They have a cohesiveness and they have a culture. That's the key part. They have a culture in play. And so if you're missing one piece of that culture that will better the odds and he enters the transfer portal from Notre Dame, what do you do to go to the collective and say, I need him? No. You want to go to that next level? You want to be compared to Alabama? You want to be compared to Tennessee, to Georgia, to Texas, to all these other teams? I need him. He fits our culture, but he also fits our identity. Do you have that? Or do you not have to worry about that? Because at the end of the day, when you look at South Carolina, it does feel like the next 2 years is the window for them to go on a run. And in a 12-team playoff, anything is possible. We just watched as the number 18 and the number 9 team, my bad, the number 17 and the number 8 team battle it out in the national championship. If the board bodes your way, you are going deeper and deeper and deeper into the postseason, regardless of if people think that you're good enough to win it all against the number 1 seed. If you're lucky enough, you're going to play your cards right and you're going to be punching your ticket to Las Vegas. But you got to make sure that you leave no stone unturned. If you got to bring in a veteran wide receiver, go out and grab that veteran wide receiver. If you got to upgrade with the running back room, go upgrade with the running back room. If you feel like you need more help in the secondary, don't be afraid to swing big and get somebody from another SEC school that's on the fence if they want to stay or not. That needs to be South Carolina's MO. Teams that are aggressive, teams that are willing to actually swing and punch their ticket to the college football playoff usually are also willing to open up their checkbook. And it may come with just one player, but that one player may be the difference of you playing down in Orlando, Florida next year, or advancing past that next bowl game and actually feeling like that you belong in the college football playoff picture. Actually feeling like that a national championship, coming to Willie B, coming to a place to where we all know dreams should go die, and multiple dreams probably will this year. A place where you hear that fan base so ravenous as everything in Sandstorm is about ready to come on up and you're feeling it inside the stadium. That place, that should be what you expect. Now you just got to make sure that you're willing to pay the right price. Let me know in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on South Carolina's big 3 questions going into 2025? Who are the players that you want to see break out? What do you look forward to this upcoming year? Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure you're following us on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson and check out our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. War Chickens, this is the year. I'm telling you, this is the year. Peace.